Greetings fellow cockpit builders, this is Gwyn from Aerosim Solutions. Now, I've made this video today to demonstrate the column head elbow unit that I make here. I originally made this unit to bolt two fiberglass replica yokes to my columns, and I bought the fiberglass yokes from Roberto Soriano over at throttletech.com. Absolutely brilliant units and thoroughly recommended. Now, if you buy this unit, you will notice that it comes assembled with the potentiometer wire, and this is how it would arrive in the post. Now, to be able to bolt your yoke to it, you need to dismantle it. There's one screw on the bottom. Remove that screw first, and this enables the mechanism to be withdrawn from the elbow. Now, there is a snug fit in there, so it will need tapping from the back. With the potentiometer wire taken out of the way and a hammer handle, a couple of small taps will release the unit and the cartridge can be withdrawn. I'll just take the elbow out of the way, and here we have what I call the cartridge unit. It comprises of the flange, the main body, and what I call the pulley tube. The flange can drive 180 degrees, left, full right, and this motion drives a potentiometer at a ratio of 3 to 2, so the potentiometer rotates 270 degrees. This gives good resolution from a 10 kilo ohm linear pot. Unit comes wired, ready. There's about 2 meters of wire on there, ready to go straight to your interface card. Now, once it's assembled, the potentiometer sits down the bottom, and you'll notice there's the pulley on the back here with a stopper. Now this stopper is to lock wire. You need to get 4 meters of 2mm stainless steel wire assembled onto the pulley if you're going to use this in a 2-position simulator. You feed one end of the 4 meter length of wire through the stopper and pull it through till you find the halfway mark, which means you have 2 meters of stainless steel wire hanging both sides. Lock up the screw so that it firmly grips the wire in the middle. Then this stainless steel wire will be needed to be fed through the elbow down the column tube, along with the wiring from the yoke. If you've got wiring on your yoke handle, which you surely will have from trim buttons, etc., the wiring goes through the centre of the axle and will come out the back. And my own yokes have 11 pairs, that's 22 wires. They're fine wires similar to what I use on the pot. Now, that bunch of wires comes through the back of the yoke, which is obviously a moving part. So when you put the wires through, ensure that you put a sleeve over the wires, which I use some clear plastic tubing, and I also put a bit of silicone grease on that tubing, so that the wires don't get damaged by the rotary motion. So there's 2 ways of mounting a yoke. On the flange we have 2 rings of 4 holes. The one pitch circle is 50mm, the outside one is 70mm, and these holes are threaded. You can simply put bolts through your yoke handle direct into this flange, but ensure that they don't protrude past the flange, because if they do, they will end up binding the unit. It won't turn. These bolts have to be shorter than passing all the way through. If it's better for you to bolt onto the yoke from the back of the flange, that can be done, but some further disassembly is required. And to dismantle the unit further, you need to remove a Scotch key, which is in the back there. A small jeweler's flathead screwdriver will remove the Scotch key. Scotch key is a threaded rod. The hole is tapped on the centre line of where the pulley meets the axle, so it locks it all together. Holding the block firmly, the pulley tube can be wriggled off. There we have it, in one piece. There's a clear spacer, and then the flange will simply pull out of its roller bearing. You'll see a groove in the block and a pin on the back of the flange. That pin rides in the groove and limits the travel to 180 degrees. The back of the flange there's a clear acrylic thrust washer. That's just to reduce friction between the moving parts. you'll see the back of the flange has 8 countersunk holes. So you can screw direct into the back of a timber or resin yoke using screws from this side. Just make sure when you use the countersunk screws that they do remain below the surface. If the screws are sticking proud, you might need to countersink these holes a little bit further. Now, assuming you've got the yoke bolted to the flange and the wires come through the middle, you would have to feed the wires through the thrust washer, get the thrust washer back on there. Just a note on the circle, the circular holes, the unit comes with a template. You can put this against the back of your flange and use it to drill, make marks, so you can drill and tap your resin or wooden yoke. Now, assembly is just a reversal of taking it apart. Push the axle into the bearing, make sure the pin goes into the groove, just check that. Replace the clear spacer, and then push the tube on, lining the gears up where they came from. You might notice there is 2 black marks on the gears. They have to come into mesh in the same place. It's most important to get the mesh right, or the potentiometer may end up damaged if it's assembled wrong. So line up the black marks and push the unit together. Now check those black marks together, they are. The hole isn't quite lined up, so I'll just give that a twist. Now it is, that Scotch key should go back in, which it does. Tighten that up and the unit is assembled. Now, assuming you have a yoke bolted on the back, all the wiring's coming through. You have the stainless steel wire for transmission for a dual seat sim. All this has to be fed through the elbow and down the yoke, including the potentiometer wire. So put the unit back into the yoke. Imagine feeding all those wires back in. Then you have to line up the locking bolt. This stops the cartridge turning in the elbow. And lining it up best you can, slide it into place and put the locking screw back into place. And there we have it. The unit with the yoke mounted is ready to fit onto the column. I recommend not gluing the PVC parts together here. It's best to slide the elbow over the column and use a couple of screws to lock it on. It's better to be able to dismantle it. If for any reason you need maintenance later on, which I shouldn't imagine it would do, I think this unit will last many years of trouble-free operation. But if you do need to take it apart, it's better if the column tube is not glued in. And there we have it, the generic yoke head elbow, suitable for Boeing type simulators and also Lear type simulators. Thank you for watching the video today.